This is the full story on how LAW, Heshima Thompson, and Zalon Thompson made history as background singers for Amy Winehouse. Now, let's get a few things clear because Zalon and Heshima were there long before LAW was. I just came on the scene for that second album. They had been with her, I think, from the very beginning, and they are also more closer to her friendship-wise than I was. So, of course, I'm thankful and grateful for them for taking me in and embracing me as a brother, being part of that arena of what they brought to the Amy Winehouse stage experience. And I'm forever grateful for that. And that's why we're still tight friends to this very, very day. We changed the game for background singers because up until me and Zalon did that David Letterman performance, there were no other artists that had background singers that were doing what we were doing. Usually when you see an Usher or Mary J. Blige, if you look at the background singers, number one, they get very little face time, and number two, they're usually just doing the same moves, you know, that kind of thing, or they doing one of these, trying to bounce to the beat, and they just look stiff, standing in one spot, and they're not able to embellish because, truthfully, as a background singer, that's your role. You're there to do backup and nothing else. Whatever the singer wants from you, that's what you do. So I respect that and I understand that because I paid my dues on that scene as well. So we changed the game because there was nobody else doing that at that time. I would probably have to say in the 7 or 6 year span of Amy Winehouse released albums, Beyonce and D'Angelo would probably be the only two artists I would give credit to that had background singers that stepped out with them and performed and had fun, and then they went back to their posts. And even before then, as everybody know, we are definitely not the first people to step out as background singers. That's been going on since the Pips, Rod Stewart, definitely James Ingram had background singers that would step out with him, sometimes. Luther Vandross, Michael Jackson, shout out to Darryl Fanice and the legendary Saida Garrett, because those Michael's solo stage shows were monumental, not just because of Michael's movement, but also because he allowed his background singers to take the place of his brothers, with all the movements and the accents and things like that. Luther Vandross was also very instrumental in bringing out his girls and the one guy he had singing backup out to reach to touch the crowd while they sing and be in different parts of the stage. So I'm here to say, and I've said this many times before, because of anybody that follows me on Twitter and Facebook, when it comes to music history, I tell the facts and then I give my opinion or whatever theory that I have afterwards. But we're not the first to do that. But I can definitely say that me and Zalon, we brought it back. Up until then, nobody was thinking about those kind of movements. Nobody was thinking about the old school choreography that went with the kind of sound that Amy Winehouse had. So that's how we changed the game for background singers, because within 2 weeks and a month of time, I would go to certain clubs in New York City, check out certain bands and certain artists, and I would see the artists up front, and I would see the background singers stepping out and going around the microphones and going back to their posts, and I'm like, they wasn't doing that before. And the same thing goes for when I saw Sade's performance through a friend of mine that actually called me up the minute it came on. It's like, yo, Lord, look at Sade on David Letterman. They doing the same thing your background guys were doing. So when I saw that performance and I saw these different artists that were now starting to make their background singers come out front, which was after our David Letterman performance, that's how I knew that we really, really had an impact. So that is why I say that. And I'm telling you this on YouTube so that people won't try to twist my words around, and you're getting it straight from the person who was there doing the show. Now, at the time when we did the performance, I didn't know at the exact moment that we would have the impact the way that we did, but there was one factor that led me to believe that this was definitely going to be something that we would be talking about 4 or 5 years later. And as living proof, even before Amy's untimely death, people were still talking about that performance. 6 million views on YouTube to this very day. Most of the comments were in reference to me and Zalon's dance movements. So I say no more when it comes to that particular part. But the one factor that kind of let me know that this was definitely going to be something that people would be talking about was when David Letterman asked that infamous question after we had just finished performing Rehab, which was, great sound, give it up for Amy Winehouse. Who are these guys? And when he said, who are these guys, he was pointing directly to me and Zalon. Now, I'm a David Letterman fan, and in my years of watching David Letterman and watching some of my favorite artists perform on that show that had background singers, I had never, ever heard David Letterman say that about any background singers. So that's how I kind of knew that we were on to something. But I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch. So basically, until I saw the other artists in New York City, you know, copping the movements and letting the background singers do their thing the same way how Amy allowed us to do our thing, it just made sense. And that's how I knew that we really changed the game for that time arena, and we brought it back. So that's the story behind how me, Zalon, and Heshima Thompson changed the game. Amy Winehouse, rest in peace. Love you. Thank you.